Today we're exploring 5 key signs that show you're financially ahead at various age milestones in Canada. Over our years advising Canadian retirees, we've identified clear financial markers that show you're doing well from your age, from your 40s all the way into your 60s. That's exactly why we're making this video today, to show you the 5 key signs that indicate you're financially ahead of most Canadians in your age group. Let's get right into it.
So John, what do you think some signs are that you're doing well, let's say in your 40s?
Well, I think the most important thing to kick things off is going to be the retirement savings. And really, being in your 40s, you should already have some retirement savings already beginning. And typically around here, it's about 2 to 3 times your annual income should be what is starting to be set aside now for your retirement. So that means you've already begun this process in your 20s and 30s. That's a good indication that you're off and running and off on the right foot.
Yeah, John, I agree. And that's a way to increase your personal wealth, your net worth. Another way that you can be doing so is by paying down major debt.
Yeah.
Now, in your 40s, you've probably gotten into some level of mortgage debt. You probably own your home, but are into the routine of making regular payments to your mortgage. Perhaps you're halfway paid through, or you're just getting started into a bigger mortgage. I understand how many people can be into big mortgages here in the GTA with the way that real estate prices are. But yes, in your 40s, if you've got a head start or well into paying down your mortgage, you're in a great spot.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads into another point where we want to be diversified, I guess, in where your money is going to be allocated. And, part of it, like I mentioned at the start, being towards retirement savings, other part of it should be towards real estate. There should also be some tax-free savings accounts maybe you have already started to think about, but also the investments itself, if you're choosing to invest in, let's say, ETFs or mutual funds, something along those lines, those as well should be diversified across different industries or different economies or countries, just to provide you that growth opportunity, but also mitigate the risk along the way, not putting all your eggs into one basket.
Right. Now, you mentioned savings and investing, but in different accounts. And you'll only be able to do that if you've got surplus cash flow to be able to be investing in these different accounts.
Yes.
And that's where it helps to be into your 40s, well into your career, where your earnings are probably at their peak or getting close to your peak earning potential. So when your income is growing, it's a great idea to, instead of increasing your expenses, be putting that money aside and taking advantage of all the tax deferred or tax-free opportunities that the government allows.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with all these great things that are going on, maybe you're at a higher income level, maybe your retirement savings are going on, debt reduction's underway. We always want to have that extra degree of protection just in case health or other issues arise and throw off this plan. And that's why we always recommend some degree of insurance, whether that be disability insurance to protect that earning potential like you mentioned, or maybe it's life insurance to protect loved ones from any sort of premature passing. There should be insurance coverage going on and underway just to ensure that even if things don't go according to plan, your financial plan will be covered.
So we've just walked through 5 signs that you're doing well in your 40s, but not everybody is that fortunate. What are some of the problems that 40-year-olds face when it comes to their personal finance?
Well, I'd say one of the biggest issues that people face nowadays is competing priorities really between college savings maybe and retirement. There's going to be, a lot of people in their 40s probably have the next generation in the household, maybe have a couple kids. Exactly. So you've been dealing with this competition now for the last little bit, where you want to have that education savings set up for your children. Maybe it's 10 years away. It's a bit more of a shorter timeline. So that kind of interferes with ideally what you want to have set aside for retirement.
Right, and I mentioned it earlier. In your 40s, you're likely well into your employment and in your peak earning years, but you mentioned it earlier. At the same token, you are in a high expense time. You've got kids that are aging, possibly more expenses. You're into your peak earning years, but you're also into your peak spending years.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot available for additional savings.
Absolutely, and with this, people often start to think, well, now if retirement's becoming in focus now, and there's an aggressive catch-up that would be coming to your retirement savings. I mean, let's face it, we speak with clients regularly, and usually you start thinking about retirement when it's in sight, and you might start to, imagining to be there. Not a lot of people get started in their 20s, and not so many get started in their 30s as well. So playing catch-up on retirement is a big thing that we see for people in their 40s and sometimes even 50s, where it is possible, but obviously it helps a lot more the earlier you start. Those are a couple of the biggest issues I think a lot of people in their 40s face when thinking about their financial success. And some of the reasons that, bring up some of these issues is maybe some of their underlying beliefs about financial success in their 40s. So, Carlo, what are a couple of those underlying beliefs that tend to hold people back?
Yeah, no, as financial planners, we've seen and heard it all. One of them that we've heard and is the most common is people feel like they have a lot of time to save for retirement. And I think we've talked about it a lot. Time is your best friend when it comes to saving for retirement. Not enough people understand the power of the compounding, being in the market and having earned income on top of itself for you to grow much faster. And waiting, delaying and deferring savings until you earn more money, until the house is paid off, until the kids are in school, until you've bought that sports car. There's always going to be an excuse for you to start saving for retirement, assuming that you've got 10 to 15 years. That's just simply not enough time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things that, like you mentioned, we've always kind of harped on, where instead of thinking about waiting or even, having that in the back of your mind, if you just set up an automatic savings, even if it's small, anything that's going to set aside a certain amount of money from your paycheck towards your long-term future, it's going to benefit you. And going back to our last point where kids, having kids and starting to think about their education before your retirement savings, this kind of solves that issue as well, where you don't need to forego one to do the other, right? You can have a balance between the two, and that's often, usually what we would recommend to our clients is you need to have a clear balance between the two, where sure, you want to take advantage of the government grants that'll be coming for making contributions to your kids' education, but you also want to take advantage of potentially maybe RSP savings so you can get a tax deduction yourself or the tax deferred growth of a TFSA. So a little bit of both would lead to the most success, I think, for some people.
Yeah. Being able to say that you've been able to save for your education and having them get through school, that's something that shows a lot of success in your personal finance. And a lot of people, unfortunately, get all caught up in keeping up with the Joneses and being able to have a life that's better than the next. And having that kind of mindset can really put a hindrance on your ability to save, because you might be spending far more than you can actually afford to live that lifestyle that you think will impress people or you think that's important to you at the time. But I would argue that, having a lifestyle that allows you to save the right amount to have you live the desired lifestyle in retirement, that's a far greater goal than anything else.
Mm-hmm. So even if you're in your 40s and some of the things that maybe we had discussed today doesn't necessarily apply to your situation, you still may be in a better position than you originally realize. And one of the first main reasons for that is you're probably, like Carlo mentioned before, close to your peak earning years, so that you're going to be able to create different opportunities maybe that you didn't have previously in your 30s. So got to consider that an opportunity for you now, looking ahead and thinking, well, maybe I do have more capacity to save than I first thought. And one of the things I always kind of do is, even when you're filing your tax returns and you see what your income was this year compared to what it was 5-10 years ago, that kind of is the eye opener you need to see to think, well, okay, maybe things have gotten a little bit better. It's hard, it's easy to forget those things on a year-to-year basis. And even if you have any degree of retirement savings, it's already putting you ahead than more than 40% of Canadians at your age. It's pretty staggering information that's out there, but not a lot of Canadians have even begun to start thinking about retirement savings. So even if you have something set aside, you're already doing better than about 40% of Canadians. And most importantly, your career stability and maybe now established credit, if you have a mortgage, give you some powerful financial leverage that maybe when you're younger you didn't necessarily have. So there still is plenty of opportunity out there for you. And if this is something that you don't feel like you're in one of those stable positions, you have the opportunity to get to maybe that ideal retirement age by the time we get to your 50s and 60s.
Now, we can only cover this age group in so much detail here today. But since everyone's retirement situation is unique, we want to make sure you don't leave this video without taking action, because you don't know where to start. Your retirement journey deserves personalized attention. After all, your goals, timeline, and circumstances are specific to you. We'll examine your current financial picture, discuss your retirement goals, and identify any potential gaps in your planning. This is your chance to get expert guidance tailored specifically to your needs, completely free of charge. Whether you're worried about having enough saved, wondering about the best investment strategies, or simply want to ensure you're on the right track, we're here to help. Now, we've talked about the 40s, John. Let's move another decade on and talk about the 50s. And, we have many clients who are entering retirement or thinking about retirement who are into their 50s. What are some signs that they're doing well? And for our clients, typically what we see is that they've got retirement savings in and around the 5 to 6 times their annual income. So being in their peak career earning years, they're able to set aside a lot towards retirement savings and be able to build up that nest egg to provide that retirement income when they've stopped working. Another thing we found is if they did have a mortgage, they've either significantly paid it down or are very close to having it completely at zero. And again, that's just another decade of payments. And again, at peak career earning years, that disposable income, you could be making some extra payments down on your mortgage. And at this point in time, you've probably been thinking about retirement and you've met with your financial planner, hopefully, and have your retirement timeline all laid out. You understand what that date is, what you need to be doing with respect to savings and what your portfolio needs to be in order to retire. So that planning's been done. Into your 50s, you should be feeling very good about that retirement date.
Exactly. Once you're into your 50s, the end's in sight, more or less. You're getting closer and closer to that retirement. So having that ideal plan leading up to retirement is going to help a long way. I mean, you don't want to have that financial plan be created a year before you expect to retire and then find out maybe it's not the best timing for you. But there are going to be some core problems that people are going to start facing in their 50s. And one of them actually goes really hand in hand with what I was mentioning before, where you're starting to feel the retirement pressure. 65 is going to start feeling closer and closer, and you might feel a bit of a stretch or a strain on you financially in order to make sure you're able to get to that ideal retirement at 65. And maybe there might be some balancing of trying to help either adult children or maybe some children that are currently in school. So that also is going to play a role where you're going to feel, I guess, the pull from other different directions that where your money should be going. And really, one of the biggest issues that people have is still the uncertainty about retirement income needs and if people are even really truly prepared. And that's where, Carlo, like going back to what you mentioned, having that financial plan, before you even get into potential retirement in your 50s, you should have that all planned out and know at least roughly what you expect to be spending in retirement. So that way you have something to plan towards.
So, John, you did talk about a real concern that clients or Canadians in their early to mid 50s feel heading into retirement. And a lot of it have to do with those underlying beliefs that they have about retirement. What we've heard, again, from clients who don't feel necessarily confident about their retirement is that they think it's too late to make any major changes. They aren't prepared to make a change to their portfolio in order to have more risk and have a higher expected rate of return, or they feel that they need to be completely debt-free before considering retirement. They don't want to have the burden of having debt repayment over their heads while relying on a portfolio or a pension for retirement income. And you mentioned it earlier, needing to help adult children. Again, I mentioned it earlier in the video, living in the GTA, it's very difficult for young people to get into the real estate market. And so parents feel that obligation almost to want to help their children financially to get their foot in the door in real estate. So, and that can have an impact on the timing of retirement for our clients because they don't feel they have enough.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, dealing with that has become more and more common, I think, with a lot of our clients that we've been speaking with.
Well, John, we've talked about clients who are in their 40s and 50s. Let's talk about clients who are now into their 60s and signs that they seem to be doing well. In what we found in meeting with our clients who are in their 60s, they typically have retirement savings that are 8 to 10 times what they will be spending in retirement. And so they've done their savings, they've been in their peak earning years and been able to accumulate a lot of wealth in their portfolio to essentially pay their income while they're retired. These clients have also been able to pay down their debt. They no longer have obligations to any financial institutions, and any income that they're bringing in is just to satisfy their regular living expenses. In retirement, at age 60 in Canada, you can start collecting your Canada pension plan. If it makes sense for you, there is a reduction on your CPP benefit if you take it at 60, but at least you understand while you've been working what you've been able to accumulate. That's going to act as another retirement income source on top of everything else that you'll have. So again, hopefully working with your financial planner, you'll understand the different retirement income sources that you'll have and have a strategy in place for while you're in retirement. And what we've also found is healthcare insurance is in place. Following retirement, you'll likely lose your group benefits or health benefits. Clients who are doing well have already established that next healthcare or medical plan. And with clients in their 60s, if they have any sort of insurance protection, it's likely unnecessary any longer, and you have the opportunity to change the type of insurance you have, whether it's going to be for estate tax minimization or helping to pay those final expenses. Yeah. Clients in their 60s typically have all of these things looked after.
Now, for those Canadians that maybe haven't reached what an ideal financial success would look like in their 60s, maybe they've run into some of these core issues that we've tend to see with a lot of our clients. And primarily the biggest one's uncertainty about when exactly to retire. I think that's a big issue that a lot of people face into their 60s for a multitude of reasons. Could be financial reasons. Maybe you're wanting to retire sooner than you can. Maybe there's a desire to continue working. Maybe it's scaling back. A lot of people have difficulty as to when to do it, and rightfully so, because it's a fairly major change to your regular living. The other big issue that people face is the fear of market downturns, specifically so close to retirement. And, we probably see that pretty regularly with a lot of our clients. I mean, even if you're not close to retirement, we see some clients that still with the fear of market downturns, and understandably so. If you're going to start living off this nest egg, you obviously want to go into retirement with the market as healthy as possible. But in that point of view, and we've had conversations with our clients in the past, nobody has that crystal ball. No one knows when's a good time to retire or when's a bad time to retire based on markets. But obviously there's some fear around that as well. And the other big thing too is even going to be confusion about Canada pension plan timing and retirement income planning in terms of when you can take it, how's the best ways to structure it. And really with a lot of these questions, no one will know the exact answer, but what we can do is we can create a plan to at least determine what's the best likely solution for Canada pension, for retirement income, and that hopefully should reduce the fear of what those market downturns are.
We can be doing as much planning as possible for clients heading into retirement, but there are still these underlying beliefs that people have that will hold people back. And some of the most common ones that we found are thinking that you have to wait until you reach age 65 to retire, regardless of your savings. 65 was always that normal retirement age, but if the resources are there, if the plans have been made and you know what you want to do, then there's no reason to continue working just to reach age 65. Another underlying belief that people have that will hold people back from retirement is needing to move everything to safe investment immediately. And this is a conversation that we have a lot. I'm retiring in 5 years. I think we should move all of our investments to cash or GICs just to keep what we have in case the market drops. But that's simply not the right thing to do. Your retirement doesn't mean you're going to be selling everything out of the market and living on that amount of cash. You're going to pull a certain percentage out of your portfolio to live, and that remainder stays invested over the long term. So having funds in a more aggressive or let's say riskier asset is fine because your retirement isn't in 1 year. It's still over a longer period of time. And lastly, another underlying belief that people have is delaying your Canada pension plan as long as possible to get that premium. Because it is the case where if you defer your CPP longer, there is a premium or a higher benefit that you'll get. But it may not be necessary if all of the income sources that you have in retirement will be sufficient to cover all of your retirement living expenses.
Now, once again, we're not trying to paint a grim picture. We're not trying to make people feel like they're not particularly ready yet. There still could be a lot of potential opportunity in the situation that you're in. You still could be probably doing much better than you think while in your 60s. And one of the biggest things for that is, even if, again, inconsistent, a lifetime of savings has probably created more options than maybe you originally realized. You may have a home paid off. You may have a certain amount saved up in your retirement savings plan. So that does create opportunity. There is options for you when it comes down to retirement. Like we said, even if it's not the greatest situation that you personally feel, it might mean retirement gets delayed by a year, might get delayed by 2 years. You might work part-time in retirement just because you want to. There's a lot of different options that could be within your realm of what you're able to do. And the other part of that too, which could lead to, a good reason why you're in a good position, and it's a hidden thing that not a lot of people usually consider. Throughout your working years, contributing into the Canada pension plan feels like it's just another tax that goes on within Canada. It's just taken off your paycheck. You don't see it, but it really comes into play when you're well into your 60s. I mean, sometimes these Canada pension benefits are, a significant part of what your retirement income is, and it's guaranteed inflation protected income for the remainder of your life. It's a pretty incredible thing that we have here in Canada. And again, it's one of those things that often gets forgotten about for a lot of Canadians. So there's a lot of great reasons why you're probably in a really good position into your 60s. Now, figuring out how to maximize that or how to make it even better is the work that you can take by speaking with a financial planner just to make sure you're able to get there. Now that you've discovered the key financial milestones for each stage of life in Canada, what's truly eye-opening is how these age-based markers are just the beginning of building what real financial success. Through analyzing thousands of Canadian financial journeys, we've consistently seen people exceeding these benchmarks when they have the right strategy in place, whether it be between RSP optimization, tax-efficient investing, or strategic retirement planning. We found that most Canadians have far more potential for building wealth at any age than they realize.
That's why we want to offer you a complimentary retirement strategy call with our team of experienced advisors. During this one-on-one session, we'll dive deep into your specific situation, answer all your questions, and help create a clear roadmap for your retirement success. Click the link below to schedule your complimentary call, and let's start planning your path to a secure retirement today.